Okay, hello everybody and welcome. We're going to be here today for about 60 minutes together with Dominik Berger, which is our scientific coordinator of the Growth and Digital Marketing Master. I'm Dorina Husambeli. I'm going to do a really short introduction about Talent Garden for those that don't know us yet. And this is how our agenda looks like for today. So I'm going to take just 5 minutes, really brief. So who we are, for who doesn't know us, we are a co-working space. We started in 2011 actually with this as a core business of Talent Garden, but then Innovation School came, and actually the event that we're having today is part of the Innovation School events. And then we have a third really important part of the Talent Garden ecosystem, which is the corporate transformation. And we collaborate with a lot of companies and follow them in their digital transformation journey. So we are a community, not just a space. And we really like to stress this word because between those three sides of Talent Garden that I just showed you in the previous slide, actually there's a lot of interaction and a whole ecosystem working together, and they don't work as separate parts. This is how graphically our path looks like. As I said, we started in 2011 in Brescia, in a really small city in northern Italy. And the founder by the time, which is still the founder nowadays, Davide Dattoli, but he was really young, 21 years old. He had this idea, which was really supported by investors. So in 2015, we could have the start of the school, of the Innovation School, but also the first international campus. And in 2019, we opened also our campus in Austria. And now, just recently, in 2020, we opened in Lille, France, and planning to have other 3 openings really soon in southern Italy. So we are in 8 countries, 17 cities, 21 campuses, and we are one of the largest European network of campuses for professionals working in the digital and tech industry. Talking a little bit more about the school. So the school has been trained now more than 2,300 students, actually these numbers are growing pretty fast because we're starting 12 courses now soon in spring. And the school is in Italy, Austria, and Denmark with physical classrooms. But as you know, due to COVID, obviously we're moving everything online. And obviously online means from all over the Europe. That's our main focus. That's where we would like to have all the candidates. Other continents are more than welcome, but there is an issue of the time change sometimes. And these are the 5 main areas: data, business, marketing, coding, and design. The topic of today is focused on the marketing. What do? We have full-time boot camps where we have 40 hours of training for several weeks. And this means people cannot work while studying with us. They start a new career from scratch. Meanwhile, the part-time programs are more thought about professionals who would like to upskill and integrate these new skills related always to the digital area in their actual careers. Growth and Digital Marketing program is going to start next Monday. I was talking just previously to Dominik. We're having quite a big classroom. What we consider big cannot go more than 30 participants, obviously, because we have quite an interactive method, which is the flipped classroom methodology. We're having 8 modules. Some of you maybe have already seen them. Most of you are probably in the funnel and have finished the selection process or are in there. So I wouldn't take too much time from Dominik's speech because I think it's more interesting to hear some professional speech about the digital marketing from who actually does it every day. So Olta, for who doesn't know her, is the person who's composing this classroom of the growth and digital marketing. So here are her contacts. And that is it from my side. It is actually 6:05, so I'm really happy to be that punctual. And I would like to welcome Dominik. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here with you today. Welcome to our webinar on 10 hacks for growth marketers, both like those that are watching live and rewatching the YouTube afterwards. I'm just gonna share my presentation with you. So, perfect. So I'm the scientific coordinator at the program called Growth and Digital Marketing at the Talent Garden Innovation School. So I'm responsible for the content in the program, and I'm also the CEO and founder of a digital agency called Attention Fox, where we mainly focus on all the things that we also learn during our program at the Talent Garden. So everything related to growth marketing and digital marketing. And for today, I've selected 10 hacks that, to my mind, every growth marketer should know. So I hope that you will be learning something new tonight and also have something to take with you tonight, whether you can apply it in your own organization, business, or like for your personal side project. And I'm also happy to answer any questions after this short introduction. So before we get started, I just want to get like a bit clear on what is growth marketing actually compared like to traditional marketing, because this might not be that obvious. So if you think of like marketing that you learn at university or school, traditional marketing is like more company centric. You really focus on acquisition and awareness, brand building. And actually, a lot of decisions are based on gut feeling and also like personal opinions. So it's not very data driven usually. Also, like if you think of marketing like 10 years before nowadays, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have like all the data that we now collect like on the internet and other digital channels. So you would usually have like annual planning. You would work very budget driven. You would focus more like on tactics, getting like your brand out there to your audience. And usually you also focus like more on um, metrics that are like more kind of vanity style of metrics, which is like reach and like also like brand awareness and stuff like that. So it was of course also like hard to measure things, but now with a digital world, we do have all the things that we can measure and also like make data driven decisions. So growth marketing is also more customer and user centric. So you really need think of the needs of your audience, think of how to provide value. And I'm also like a true advocate of being like customer centric, being of a value to your customers and to your user base. So you focus not only on acquiring customers at scale, but you do really focus on the full funnel, which means you also focus on not only getting them like into your product or service, but also keeping them happy, making them like a loyal customer on the long term, and also maybe transform them even like into an ambassador for your company or brand. So growth marketing is also really based on the data, as I've said before, that we can nowadays collect. And compared to traditional marketing, it's less about like annual planning. It's less budget driven, but it's really more agile. So we often also talk about like marketing operations, where you see it as like a multi functional team inside an organization. And usually, and what I hope you also work like really ROI driven, which means that you really focus on the outcomes of everything you do in marketing. So it's also more strategy than tactics. Although like with growth hacking, of course, we also focus on the tactics. We also focus like on short-term wins, maybe like on some quick wins, low-hanging fruits. And also the hacks today I'm gonna present today, of course, can be seen like as something like short-term, but it always feels like really a more strategic long-term approach, because it's always about really acquiring customers, making them happy, and like making them also like a loyal, maybe even like ambassador for your brand. And also what we mainly work with like in the program at the Talent Garden is something called the Pirate Funnel, which is used in growth marketing or also in growth hacking. So if we think of traditional marketing, usually just focus really on raising awareness about your brand, focusing really on getting as many customers in your company for your products, for your services as possible. And you usually stop there, right? So you do not think of, okay, what's happening after they have bought your product or service? How are they going to use it? How do they really benefit from it? How do they stay with you? How do you retain customers? How do you maximize revenue? And how do you make like them refer you to others? And this is what we do like with growth marketing. So we do not stop at acquisition, but we also think of other phases, usually called activation, which is all about really getting your users use the product or service that you're offering. Here it's also about like the wow moment, the aha moment. So it's really making them to also understand the value of your product or service, and then also retain them. So with increasing acquisition costs that we also see like on digital channels nowadays, it's important to think of retention. So keeping them with your company, with your organization. So I'll also think of how you can really maximize the revenue with upselling, cross-selling, subscription models. So this is the revenue part. And last but not least, to drive viral loops, as we call it, it's also about like the referral part. So thinking of how do you motivate existing customers to refer you your products or services to others. And like this should be enough introduction for you to get started like with the 10 hacks. And the first one I've picked is gamification, which I think is still a bit like underestimated. You all might know some popular examples like from Dropbox or from Duolingo or from some other apps like LinkedIn or even like Gmail, where you do have like some little gamification elements. So actually the goal of gamification is always to drive interaction with your product or service. So here on the right, you see that, for example, Dropbox, a very well-known example in growth marketing, has used like a rocket to show like your progress in referring others and adding more space to your cloud storage. But also like if you think of Duolingo, any language learning app, or maybe some kind of fitness app, you do see your achievements, you do get your reminders, you do get some kind of prizes and rewards. So what you do with gamification really is to offer rewards for taking action in your product or service, in your app, whatever, but also like to make them explore your product. And what I would recommend is like also Dropbox does, or also what Duolingo does, is to add some kind of urgency or time commitment. So for example, with Duolingo, if you know that app, that language learning app, you do get like reminders every day to check in and to do your lesson. And at some point to stop, and they tell you, oh, I'm sorry, I have annoyed you. So I won't bother you with any further notifications, check-ins. But they really try to keep you like in the product, like with this daily lesson, and also have something called like streaks, where you see like, okay, I'm checking like for 5 days in a row, and then I get like some bonus points and so on. Also, I would encourage making achievements really visible and shareable. So show them like with badges, with colorful icons and so on, but also make them like easy to share. So on social media, so that you can, with just one tap, share it in your Instagram story. For example, if you have achieved like a certain status or a certain level of points. So also think of gamification not like only for referrals like Dropbox has done, but also really like in the activation phase, for example, so getting people into using your product. Gmail, for example, or LinkedIn does it. So if you just sign up for LinkedIn, there is like this small bar on your profile that tells you, okay, you're like just a rising star, or like you're an expert user, and then you get like basically also points. So it can be integrated really at any stage of the funnel, and yeah, make it fun, make it easy. Gamification is definitely something worth exploring. Although of course it takes some effort to implement, and that's why I've also like come up like with some low or no code solutions in the following. So another thing is really to get your product onboarding right. So with increasing acquisition costs, the activation phase actually becomes more and more crucial. So it's really about like when you do have someone signed up for your product or service, you do want them to really explore and use your product, right? Because otherwise, what's the point of getting them into your product or service? So activation is really about getting your users to a wow moment. So to fully use and understand your product or service, to make sure that they understand the value of your app or whatever you are selling. So a strong onboarding and an easy onboarding, in the best case, will show users how to leverage all the benefits of your product or service step by step. And in the past, this has been like quite some effort for development teams, but there is good news. There are like a lot of no-code platforms that have been like introduced to the market like over the past few months or years, and some have always like linked the tools that I'm referring to below here in the slides. Some are like, for example, AppQ's, Pando, Userlane, or Useitful. So basically what they do, you just add like a small snippet to your, for example, to your platform, to your app, or to your website, if it's like a web platform. And then you can just basically add overlays to your product. So this is, of course, like especially interesting for SaaS companies, for online services, where you can just like do nice overlays where you add like videos, where you show them around how to use stuff, where you really make it easy to onboard customers. So good news, there are no code platforms if your development team is already like overloaded with work.
Sorry,
Another thing.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I was just asking myself a question, and I would like to invite also participants, if they have any question, to write them down in the chat session. So what type of information you consider really important to be in the onboarding, like the main way that the tools work? What would that be like really visible? You said video, but what kind of information would you include there?
So this heavily, of course, this depends on like the product or service you're selling. For example, if you're like a video conferencing solution, like StreamYard, for example, that we're using today, you would make sure that they understand how to use the product. So step by step, adding the stream, starting your camera, adding like a presentation, adding a background. So like the best practice would really be step by step, making sure that they understand how to use your product. Or if you think of Gmail, if you log in like for the first time in Gmail, then you do see also like a wizard showing you around like the product, showing you around like the mail program. So how to start a conversation, how to add your first contact. But this always depends really like on your wow moment, on your like this moment where they really perceive the value of your product. And this really depends like on the thing that you're selling.
Thanks.
You're welcome. And any other questions in the chat? I don't see any questions so far,
no,
but
I'll put them visible in the window. Cool. If they are there.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Great. Then number 3 is to automate your LinkedIn marketing. And by automating LinkedIn marketing, I do not mean like mass sending messages to strangers, but to rather automatically take meaningful actions on LinkedIn, which means like you can use tools like Expandy, for example, to view profiles in a specific audience that you define beforehand, or send emails to people, or send messages based really on the characteristics of your dream buyers, of your ideal customer. And of course, this is something you have to be really careful with, because you do not want to be like spammy. You do not want to be too salesy. So you really want to make sure that you also personalize this automated approach. So for example, you might have got already like a message, cold outreach message with like a personalized GIF or image where your name shows up. So this is usually something people enjoy seeing if their name is on like a coffee cup or on like some kind of background. So really try to make it fun and personalized, and do not really like make meaningless cold outreach by mass sending the same message again and again, but really make it meaningful. Also make sure that before sending a message that you do have some kind of interaction with someone on LinkedIn, view their profile, also maybe like on a manual way, getting into a conversation with them. So make sure that you really, with all this like automated messaging stuff, that you are relevant to the audience you're sending to, be precise, and always really try to be like of help, adding value. And also don't be like don't be too spammy, which means don't send too many messages in a short time frame, because then you also risk to get banned, or of course you also really can harm your reputation. And there is some message question from Karim. Great to see you, Karim, here. Happy that you joined the webinar today. Which tools can you recommend for analyzing, observing the KPIs from LinkedIn? Is there a smart way to examine them? What would you recommend me? So for KPIs on LinkedIn, there is of course like one very important KPI called the social selling index that is provided by LinkedIn itself. But there are like specific analytical tools for LinkedIn that you can use, and I'm just like thinking of their names, but I can't remember it. So usually like the most basic KPIs, like the increase of your following, the engagement and so on, you do get like with all the social media platforms like Hootsuite, or also like in HubSpot if you connect it to LinkedIn. So you do get some basic KPIs, but if you really want to get like deep insights on like the on different KPIs on LinkedIn, there is a platform, but I cannot remember the name. So I would follow up on this, Karen. We are connected on LinkedIn, as you like are alumni from our program, so I can send it afterwards to you. Or you can just Google like LinkedIn analysis, then you will, I think, also find such tools. But usually like social media managing platforms do have also capabilities to present you some basic numbers. And on a personal level, I would always recommend to refer to the social selling index, because this usually indicates like your progress on social components of LinkedIn. So next one, number 4, is to join the buzz online. So this is basically about social monitoring and social listening. So your audience is very likely to already have some kind of discussions online around your product or service. And if your product or service is not that well known, then at least they would have discussions around the problems that you're trying to solve, or even around like different solutions, possible solutions that are out there. So basically your competitors. And it absolutely makes sense to, first of all, understand what your audience is currently discussing. So are there any trends out there Are there like any patterns? Is there like any sentiment that you can identify? And besides just monitoring and following like relevant hashtags, trends, your competition or influences, it makes really sense if you do have the capabilities to also jump in the discussions and help your audience like find the right solution, really be like valuable to them. So really also make sure that you do follow up like on feedback on your product, for example, especially like if it are like if there are like complaints out there, you should answer, of course. And yeah, so I can really recommend to at least set up monitoring for the most relevant hashtags, your brand, so your brand name, your domain name. And of course, it's a plus if you also monitor trends, because then you can jump on those trends and reuse it also like on the content production side. So you can produce some social content around that. And also, if you monitor your competition, you might jump in and do not like pull like customers away from your competition, but also like show up and be of help. And usually like all the social media management platforms, the major ones, support some kind of social monitoring or listening. But some that you might know are Falcon.io, Sprout Social, Hootsuite. There are many others out there as well. So it's pretty straightforward to set up hashtags, brand names, and then maybe your competition and some main influences from your industry. Good.
I have a question again from
Sure.
the previous slide. So you were mentioning the platform. What would they do practically? I've never heard of them. I'm not a growth marketing person.
So you're referring to Falcon.io, Sprout Social, for example. So these are social media management platforms, and what you can do with them, of course, is to plan your content on social media on the one hand side. So you can like pre-plan posts for Instagram, for Twitter, and so on. But on the other hand, they do have some kind of monitoring component where you just tell them, please follow the hashtag Talent Garden, for example. And then they would show you or notify you of any new posts around, for example, hashtag Talent Garden at Twitter. And then you can jump in and join the discussion, for example.
I see.
Or you can add like your competition. You can add like the social accounts of your competition and see what they are doing. Or you can set up like searches for your brand name, also follow influencers and just see like monitor what they are doing and join the bus online basically.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Good. Number 5 is to take personalization finally seriously. But what I was thinking here about is not like personalization at scale. So meaning like just adding name fields to emails or I don't know, like personalize the experience based on behavior or like on recent actions in your product or on your website. But here I would really think of focusing on single humans, persons, only if you have the capacity and if you're selling a high ticket product or service. Of course, this needs to pay off. But here it's really about like personalizing every message basically based on that single person or account. And there are tools out there that help you to understand the personality of single persons, individuals better. One is called Crystal Knows. And basically what they do is they analyze the social profiles and behavior of individuals, and then they do like their magic stuff, basically applying machine learning and statistics and data, like a huge data set, of course. And then they will tell you, okay, this person is, for example, more analytical or creative, or this person has a specific personality type that likes to communicate a lot, or this personality is more like hands-on and tries to and likes to try things out first. So this really helps you, of course, on a highly individual level to understand the person that you're selling to better. So this doesn't work at scale, obviously, but for especially for B2B high ticket products, this absolutely makes sense, because then you can adapt the messaging really to their preferences and to their needs. And what it also helps you, for example, Crystal knows does this real well, help you to understand how does an individual make decisions and how you can communicate with them in at a very efficient level. So this is not only like related to marketing, but this is also like a very interesting insight for sales. So I would also recommend here to pass on any insights here, personality insights, to sales, and use it like in as we call it, sales enablement, so that they know how to continue the conversations with the individuals in an effective way. And at least Crystal knows states that they are like GDPR compliant. So also make sure that you do your checks on that before implementing such tools. All right. So number 6 is to finally start building your referral program. And I've mentioned Dropbox earlier today, but also PayPal, Airbnb, and many other successful growth stories do have like some kind of referral component. So they do motivate you to invite your friends, your family, your colleagues, and actually, especially like with digital products and with like products that do have some kind of network effect. It's absolutely crucial that your friends and your colleagues and your family is also on the platform, because the more the merrier. Especially like with some, if you think just of like Facebook, wouldn't make any sense if just like you yourself is on the platform and no one from your friends or from your family isn't on the platform. So especially like with products, platforms that do have this network effect, it's super important. But also like for other products, this is super interesting, because this can massively decrease your acquisition cost, right? So because referring is not for free, of course, but usually your loyal customers, if they invite their friends, or if they invite their colleagues or family, then there is already like this trust to your brand that is transferred to the people that are referred. And also, of course, even if you provide some kind of rewards for them, for example, at Airbnb, you get a certain amount of credit, and the person that you refer to Airbnb also gets some kind of credit, like, I don't know, 25 euros or even more for your first booking. So even if there is some cost attached to it, it's more and more likely that the referred person also stays with your product or service, because they have been referred to it. It has been recommended to them. Recommendations are super strong. Also, if you think of your own recommendations, you really have to be convinced about a product or service before you refer it. And this means that you really get like high quality customers, users through those referrals. And you can also make your existing customers even more happy with such rewards, because if you motivate them to refer you to others, they can collect rewards. Think of Airbnb. If you get like 50 euros or more of credit every time you refer someone else, this of course makes you happy as well. And what I would recommend here is to really let users invite their friends in any way they want. So if they want to use like the Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, just a simple link, if they want to add it to their blog or whatever, make it really easy to invite others. And also again, if you do not have like the resources in terms of development, if your development team is really, really busy, you can use some no-code plug-and-play platforms to get started. So there are like while loops, for example, or referral candy that basically works like the onboarding tools that I've shown you before. So you add some kind of code snippet to your website, and then you can just add out of the box predefined even referral program that has like some proof already. And Dorina, I see you're here again.
Yeah, I'm the one that has more questions than everyone.
That's good. Keep them coming.
Good. So why do you suggest the plug and play platforms just when you get started? Because of the cost, or because you would like to have more personalized platforms for the management of the referral program?
So such plug and play platforms are easy to get started just because you just need to add like a code snippet to your product, to your website, and nothing else. So there is no development effort included. And developing such a referral program from scratch is always more cost intensive and takes more time and effort. And usually, at least from my experience, development teams are always super, super busy, overloaded with work, with real product work, and they do not want to like also get like a task from marketing, hey, implement like a referral program for us, and then you might not have like a very detailed like outline of it. So with those plug and play platforms, if you take a look at viral loops, for example, also the huge advantage is that they have pre-built templates that you can use, and pre-built referral programs with like reward points, and like also like different levels of referral programs that you can reuse, and you do not have to reinvent the wheel basically. So
I totally understand and agree with the developing things in-house part.
Yes.
But I was wondering why you're suggesting to start with this just in the beginning, because the costs of them are not sustainable in long term. Is it worth it that after a year to 10 years you develop something by yourself? Or
Of course, absolutely. So what I would recommend is to use like those tools like viral loops to basically get your hands dirty in the first place and generate as many learnings as possible, because they also offer like pretty sophisticated analytical tools. So they show you like what works best, what messaging works best. They do have sometimes integrated like A/B testing and so on. So I would use those tools like, I don't know, in the first year or in the first month to really generate as much learnings as possible. And then you can start also integrated like really in your product, like natively from a development team. And then it also takes like a bit of pressure away from your development team, because you already have it in place, and basically you just have to duplicate it or rebuild it. So like I wouldn't use, of course, such tools for 10 years or so. On the long term, I think it's always better to have it like integrated in your product natively. But to get started, I would definitely go for such a platform.
great.
Cool. So number 7 is to add fear of missing out to the checkouts, to where like a very specific phase of the bias phase. So fear of missing out, I do have like some kind of hate-love relationship to fear of missing out, because on the one hand, if you think of booking.com, for example, it can be really stressful and annoying if you see, okay, 50 other people are watching this, listening, and I don't know, 5 people already bought it and there's just 1 spot left, whatever. So it can be really stressful, and it's also like in user experience design considered as a really dark pattern that you should avoid if you want to be like a value-based marketer. So be aware of FOMO, but you can add scarcity in a really nice way. So you can just show, for example, that others buy your product or service, and instead of like just 2 spots left and such things, adding more stress. You can just show like social proof in the checkout. So you might have seen like some pop-ups like a marketer from Vienna has bought this, or I don't know, Dominik from Vienna has signed up for the growth marketing program, for example. So you might remember seeing this like on some websites. So this adds a lot of social proof, of course. And this is some nice FOMO, I would put it. So it focuses really on building trust and credibility instead of like forcing someone to buy something that they don't like anyway. So what I would recommend here is really to customize the notifications that show up to match your messaging, match your brand, of course. Make it nice. Don't add too much stress. And if you want to go again, like for a no code, easy to implement, out of the box solution, there is a platform called FOMO. It's just Google it, FOMO. And this actually allows you to implement such little nice notifications, not stressful FOMO messages like, for example, booking.com has. Good. Number 8 is collaboration is better than competition. So I strongly believe that if you collaborate like with other players in your industry, it can be good for both of you. So you can think of like coming up with industry events, webinars, also maybe work on some ebooks, studies, other kind of content offers together. Also, there is like, for example, if you think of HubSpot, they are working like with a lot of other marketing tools together to come up with like studies and helpful resources. Also, there are like a lot of companies working together on webinars. So we think of meaningful collaborations where both parties can benefit from. And also, if you do see like your competition, for example, struggling on social media as well, then you can help them. You can like jump in again, like in social monitoring, social listening, jump in the conversation and help them out. There are some examples out there, like Burger King helping McDonald's, vice versa. So there are like also some fun examples that have been like set in place before. So always think maybe like other ways to collaborate like with other players in my industries, maybe not like in the same vertical, but maybe like in another vertical, and really come up with like joint forces. And usually like if two, for example, startups work together and they join forces, then this also means that you do have more resources available. So you might design like a better looking ebook, a more valuable webinar when you join forces, just because you also double the resources, you double your audience. And it's usually really a nice thing to do. Then number 9, last but not least, but I think there is a question.
More than a question, I would love to do a comment on this, because we really believe in this in Talent Garden, like sharing the knowledge. And obviously in the campus, most of our startuppers and corporates are digital and tech startups or corporates. And there is a strong collaboration. And that the feeling, also the data of how these businesses go after a few years, is that no one is taking the business percentage from anybody, even though they collaborate. Actually, they become stronger. Most of the times there are like a couple of small startups in Talent Garden that when they put together what they know, they actually can compete better with big corporates that offer services that are pretty rich.
Absolutely agree.
It's an interesting variable, because we can see it every day in Talent Garden happening.
It's a very good input. Thank you so much. I also really strongly believe in collaboration. Of course, it's not always better, and I'm just have reloaded my presentation because there was like an example here on the right side. So you can see there are like companies also like communicating on social media with another. So you can think like of different ways of supporting each other. And I always think like that on the long term, on the long play, it's an infinite game. Collaboration is better than fighting with each other. And number 9, not the last one. But I think what's also a good idea is to use push notifications in a meaningful way. So this is still like really an underestimated channel with a lot of power, because you can basically message your users and reach your users directly, even when they don't have your app installed. So I'm referring here to push notifications in your browser, for example, or in messengers. Of course, in apps, they're also powerful, but they can be turned off pretty easily. So you might remember like from some online stores that you can activate like push notifications for your orders in the browser, for example. Or you can also activate push notifications in messengers when the like new blog posts are like posted and so on, published. And I think those are really, really powerful because they usually, like, on the one hand, have like X times the click-through rate than emails or any other channel. And on the other hand, you also get them really straight on your website, for example, because they click the push notification and they are on your website. So also, like, a huge benefit is that you do not have to collect any kind of email address, or you do not need like to add any additional barrier. They do not have to confirm anything. They just need to basically accept the notifications in your browser, and that's it. But what I would really recommend is to be very careful with those notifications. Don't overdo it. Don't overload your users. Don't spam them. Only really send like meaningful and valuable push notifications. And some tools here to use, so you do not have to build this on your own. Again, there is one Signal that I really like to use because it's easy and it's free. And there's also like other platforms like Pushgrew, or like many other platforms that allow you to also coordinate push notifications through different channels, not only on the browser, but also in the app, in messengers, and so on. Good. Last but not least, number 10 is to create shoppable posts on social media. And you might have already seen that, like on Instagram, like brands are linking their products in their posts, in their feed, maybe like also in the story, or also on Facebook, or I think Pinterest had introduced shops as well very recently. So what all those social media platforms do is they basically build shopping experiences within their apps. So they allow shopping directly without leaving the app inside of Instagram, for example. So you can do the checkout, you can pay for it, you can really like buy something within the social media app. And I think this is something that we can really leverage. Of course, we have to be quite careful because we're making we are like getting more and more dependent on those platforms with the platform economy. So if we really locked in like on Instagram shop, in the Instagram shop, for example, of course, if they add like some kind of commissions, or if they, I don't know, if there is like some kind of ban or something, of course, then you really rely on this channel. So I wouldn't recommend to go full in on like Instagram shopping, for example. Always be sure to also build like your own house, basically your own platform, your own user base. But I think on the other hand, shoppable posts on social media are a great thing because it's very convenient for users, right? So your audience can really directly buy where they are at the moment without leaving their beloved apps where they spend a lot of time already. So they do not have to also add like the credit card to another online store and add all the data. And it's like really a seamless and nice experience if you can just like buy it with a few clicks. So at least what I would recommend is to connect, if you do have an online store, the online store with your social media channels, at least add a product feed. A product feed means that you can link your products on posts on Facebook, on Instagram, for example, and the click on those products still lead to your online store. So you can do that. If you are capable of also do like Instagram shopping, Facebook shopping, you can think of that. I think it's a nice way. It's an additional promotion, additional acquisition channel to some extent. And with those platforms, you also need to make sure that use like the right image dimensions, the right format, and have proper description. So it also has like a nice experience within the platforms. And I think Dorina has a question for me.
No, actually, I have a comment because this is such an interesting thing, but I would like first to see Massimiliano's question.
Yeah.
How can we push user to subscribe push notifications with one signable?
Yeah. So there are like different ways to do that. So of course you do have to offer some kind of value when like motivating users to subscribe to push notifications. So I wouldn't like keep it like very generic, like stay up to date or so. But for example, if you do have like if you sell groceries or if you sell like some kind of fitness meals, whatever, then you could send push notifications on new recipes, and then you could motivate them by telling them, get the latest healthy recipes every Thursday, for example, just by subscribing to these push notifications. And of course, you would rather subscribe to those kind of push notifications than just something like subscribe to our latest news or whatever. So make it relevant, make it also valuable to the users, I would say, on the one hand. And like with One Signal, for example, they do have like nice overlays that you can customize with your brand image, with like your own colors and so on, so that they, before they sign up for the push notification, do get like a pop-up in the browser, and then basically they click on, okay, I want to subscribe to push notifications, and then it's just like one more click. And they also have like some kind of floating bubble where you can easily unsubscribe from those push notifications on your website. So I think it's like with also any other call to action on a landing page, on search results, to make it relevant, make it valuable to the user. And then I think it's easy to get them subscribed to push notifications. From my experience, you always will have like at least some percentage of users subscribe to push notifications by coincidence. So not like they have subscribed, although they didn't want to subscribe, because they just clicked on allow or just clicked on subscribe without thinking of what they are subscribing to. And sometimes those get annoyed. So there's like 5 to 10% maybe of your push notification user base. And you might even get like emails from them and stop sending me those messages. And in that case, I would encourage you to really help them to figure out how to unsubscribe, because you couldn't do it. You can't do it for them. They have to do it on their own. So also have maybe on your website, in the FAQs or somewhere, a part on how to unsubscribe from those push notifications, because some users might not want to receive them and they just clicked on allow by coincidence.
Okay. Thanks. In the meanwhile, Dominik, I would invite for the very last minutes, if somebody else has any questions, to write them now and we'll read them as soon as possible. My comment regarding this slide is, well, I have a background in psychology. So for me, reading that people don't even want to leave that page, but they prefer shopping there, it's a kind of addiction.
Yeah.
As you said, it's risky, but yeah, businesses are obviously taking advantage of this. They're just adapting to Facebook or this platform rather than asking users to go in their website or go in their shops and so on. How risky do you find this effect?
I think it's very, very risky. I think the platform economy is something that we should be concerned of, or something that we should keep always in mind. So if your business model relies on Instagram, and at some point they decide, I don't know, to add some kind of fee, or if they want, I don't know, if they are banned in your country for some reason, or if they like, I don't know, if they close your account for some some reason, then of course it's a very, very bad thing, because from one day to another you would lose all your business. So I would always add like such things like shops that are integrated in social media in a mix of a lot of different channels, like also like Amazon. So if you're just selling on Amazon, then you're dependent on Amazon, obviously. Of course, this could work, and it does work well for a lot of people or for a lot of businesses. But on the other hand, I think like long term, you always have to build like your own customer base. You always have to build your own relations, and do not be too dependent on all the huge platforms. And of course, Facebook tries to lock you in the platform. Apple does. Amazon does. They are all like expanding their businesses to a lot of verticals, a lot of other industries to try to lock you in the platform. They want to be dominant, of course, in the areas. I think this is something that we always need to keep in mind, be aware of. And I can also recommend all the readings by Scott Galloway, which is like a marketing professor at the NYU. And he has a book on the platform economy, where he also discusses this, like the downsides of Google, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, and so on. So I think like in general, as a society, this is something that we have to be aware of, not only as a business, but also as a society.
Thanks a lot, Dominik. We actually had 3 questions in total. 2 of them are
cool. That's great.
I guess, if I'm pronouncing her name right. She's thanking for the super cool recommendation, and she's saying, I think that a lot of them can be considered as under the head of user experience. I think about this last slide that we're talking about, especially when it is designed with an omni-channel approach. So her question is, how do you think that the roles of UX designer and growth marketing, it's really interesting, can collaborate within company, creating synergy and not overlapping?
So thank you for this amazing question. This is really a great question. And I think the roles of UX designers and growth marketers, they should really be like, they should complement each other. They should collaborate. In general, I think there are, of course, like different ways to organize growth marketing in your organization. But I think growth marketing, or if you just call it the growth team, however you want to call it, should be like a mixed team. It should be like a cross-functional team. You can make this like as a squad or some kind of temporary team where people come together and work together. But I think, especially with UX designers and growth marketers, they should really, as you say, create like synergy, work together. So I think like the UX designers are really like on this perspective of adding value to customers, being customer centric, which is great. And I think like the growth marketers then might be like more on how to get like more and more people into the funnel and keeping them in the platform. So actually, by nature, they do have to collaborate. But I think like growth marketing, of course, has this perspective of generating more and more revenue. And UX designers, on the other hand, I think they have a great addition because they're always user-centric and thinking of how to provide value. So I think they are like a great team if they work together. So definitely make sure if you do have both roles in your company that they work together and not against each other.
Okay, we'll read the last question very fast because it's almost dinner time at some places, at some countries, I guess. And actually the topic is about food. So restaurant
very good.
has always been relying on traditional marketing. Could you please talk a little bit about how digital transformation for them has been accelerating, especially in the past year? Here I have a lot of ideas, but I guess your answer is much better, Dominik.
Okay, I'm not sure because I'm really not an expert in like restaurant industry, to be honest. I think it's like the digital transformation is pretty obvious, right? It's like delivery services. So I think like what the pandemic did is to also make like the restaurant industry to think like of new acquisition channels. To be precise, I think they had to think of how do we get people to deliver, to order food from our places and to get it delivered? And I think this is like, especially like with takeaway, new innovative approaches for takeout. I think
we miss your voice, Dominik. Okay.
Is my microphone working again?
Yeah, now it's working. I think the Bluetooth maybe was disconnected.
But I can't hear you for some reason. So, is it working again?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. I'm not sure like what was the last thing that you heard, but yeah, I think like there are obvious transformations happening in the restaurant industry. I do not have like specific insights, but I think like delivery, offering a great experience when delivering food. I had like a very nice experience on Valentine's Day where they had like prepared make it your own dinner, basically, where they provide like ingredients and like a nice, or pre-cooked ingredients, and provide like a nice step-by-step guide how to complete like the dinner. Like it was like multi-course dinner, and it was really great experience, a nice experience, because they added really nice stuff to it. It was really great because you got it delivered in a box. So I think there are a lot of ways to be creative with food, with the restaurant industry. And I'm not sure, I think you also have some ideas, right?
That's exactly what I had in mind. I think during the COVID situation, everyone ordered mostly. So restaurants, I think those who could update with a small website, e-commerce, and so on, but also rely on platforms who would offer certain platforms you were mentioning before for the referrals at the beginning.
True.
With providers. So I think many of us have at least once ordered online during the COVID. Yes. So that was a big switch, because most of the restaurants would have never done it in a different situation, probably, right?
And I think like even a lot of restaurants like will stick to takeout, and like additionally to, of course, their main business. But I think it forced them to think of how can we make takeout or delivery a nice experience. Maybe this like a similar experience than in the restaurant. How can we transform our brand? How we can deliver our values or brand or experience also to home? So I think it forced restaurants to think of new innovative ways. And I think this, of course, the pandemic is terrible, and it has been a hard year. But I think like with that also, like we do see a lot of innovation happening, which of course is also good for the industry to some extent.
Absolutely. The e-commerce, I think, had a big moment during the
COVID
situation, but like innovation, tech industry, and so on, I think they were all having a good time. Just like Zoom, for example. Zoom was one example. Okay, we're a bit over time, which means that there was always some room for more topics to talk about, but we have to respect our times and leave everybody have their own dinner cooked by themselves or by the restaurant delivery. I would like to thank a lot, Dominik. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you
for your hints, and we'll see you all in the next event.
Cool. See you soon. Take care. Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.